Do you think in this dynamic of praying in the Spirit and praying understanding, we participate in the gift of tongues and interpretation personally a lot
Mm,
more often than we
mm.
realize?
I do, and
Good. That's good.
that's something I've been wrestling with actually the past few
Good.
years,
That's
and
good.
in teaching about the gifts of the Spirit. And I'm going to put something on the shelf. I want to come back to build on a comment you made just in a few moments. But I love this topic that we're addressing now. I make this point when I teach about the gifts of the Spirit. I say this because if you look in the Greek, when Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 12:1, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you be ignorant, or I don't want you to be ignorant. If you have a New King James Bible, you realize the word gifts is italicized. It's not there in the Greek. The Greek word is pneumatikos. We don't have a translation for pneumatikos in English. The closest we could translate it is like spirituals, which really doesn't fit anything what we would know and how in the operation of the Spirit. But really, what the word means is it means things that pertain to the Spirit.
Yeah.
So my point is that the reason I stress on that word pneumatikos is if you have the Holy Ghost, these are things that pertain to the Spirit. That means that these are things that pertain to you. And my point is this, that being used in the gifts of the Spirit is more common than we realize.
Yes.
And I said it's not some spooky thing for a platform. It is empowerment to live out the Christian life on a daily basis so the church can be edified.
That's
I
so
said
good.
if you ever felt to share a word of advice to somebody, maybe that was a word of wisdom. But you because it wasn't on the platform,
That's
you don't
good.
call it that.
Right. Wow.
Or you know something about it. You just know, and that's the word of knowledge coming to you. But you don't always, because it wasn't in this spiritual setting.
Thus saith the
Yeah,
Lord. Where
yeah,
you
And
Yeah.
I said I'm convinced that the gifts or these pneumatikos operate in us more commonly than we
Absolutely.
realize,
Yeah.
because they belong to the Spirit and we're Spirit filled. We're endeavoring to be Spirit led. So I do believe. I believe, just like in the book of Acts, they received the Holy Ghost. They spoke with tongues, and I do believe that there's a prayer language. But I also believe, because if you read through 1 Corinthians 14, Paul is interchangeable, where he talks about praying in tongues, and he talks about also giving messages in tongues. And he is interchangeable in that chapter. It goes back. So my conclusion is that both take place. I will pray and speak mysteries in the Spirit, and I'm praying to God. But there's also times where there are messages.
Yeah.
And so Paul, as he's going through that chapter, he mixes the two, if I could say it that way, because he understands like both happen when you're in the Spirit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you, and it's just you and your prayer to God. Other times, God will, in that prayer, you will speak things in the Spirit, and those things can be interpreted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
So good.
of cases where people have been praying, and someone else could understand what they were saying.
That happened to me.
You know,
and
Yeah.
Quincy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
and so I think what you're saying is yes, and I think we shouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah.
That these things belong to the Spirit, and if we
Yeah.
have the Spirit, then these things are gonna
be occurring.
it's gonna be a common. When I say common, not in a sacrilegious
low
way,
way.
yeah, but it should be common for us that God flows through us and however
good,
He wants
good.
to.
Wow.
Wow.
So-